Hello, welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video. Different tree today. My usual favourite tree was occupied, or at least there were some people quite close to it, so I thought I would give them some space. Today, more Gevrey Chambertin, but for a bit of a treat for me. It's a Perriere cru. This is a producer called Domaine Marchand Grillot. I've got a feeling I have had something from them before, possibly. The name of the vineyard is La Perriere. Shall I perhaps put a map on? Is that going to be that side? Who knows? This is another wine from Berry Brothers and Rudd, I think. Still working my way through that mixed case from them. I think I'm coming towards the end, possibly. Now then, I'm going to be a bit careful today because I've had a couple of issues. The last two times I think I used the wine prongs. Actually, the most recent bottle, which was not Burgundy, so I didn't bother filming it, was just some sort of naff Chianti or something to go with dinner the other day. I managed to sort of shatter the top, and I noticed, I don't know if as a result of that or before, the edge of the wine prongs were a little bit nicked and sort of rough, and I don't know if that's been an issue. So I've been sanding these down this afternoon. What a ridiculous carry-on. I could, of course, just bring, like any sensible person would, a corkscrew. I'm nothing if not bloody minded, so this could well be a disaster. I may just be about to smash a neck of a Perriere cru, which will probably make me very unhappy. It's a wax seal as well, which always sort of complicates things as well. But I'm hoping with a decent bottle, I think part of the reason was that Chianti or whatever it was the other day was sort of cheap, thin glass, so it shattered a bit more easily. But having filed these down, yeah, that's feeling okay so far. Don't jinx it. Oh yeah, and there was that other time I managed to cut my finger as well, wasn't there? I've not been having a great time opening bottles recently. I think everything has survived that operation unscathed as far as I can tell. This really shouldn't be that difficult, should it? Just opening a bottle of wine. It's not like I haven't done it before. Oh wow, that is dark before I've even finished pouring that. Wow, it's like a black treacle in a glass. Crikey. And it was, I don't know if you could see, it felt quite viscous as I was pouring it in, quite thick, quite dense, quite dark. I don't know if I talked about the weather. I don't know if you can probably see from the background here. It is pretty misty almost, sort of drizzly, grey, misty kind of a day. I did have a little walk around when I was trying to find an alternative spot to sit. So perhaps while I'm babbling here, I can be showing you some B-roll of my trudge around the grey, misty, damp surrounding landscape. Right, well, crikey, that looks thick and it looks dark, I have already said. I suppose correspondingly I'm getting possibly something like blackcurrant, but this feels kind of thicker and denser. Blackcurrant often comes across, blackcurrant juice is often sort of slightly thin to me. There's something more kind of syrupy and, dare I say it, almost jammy to this. So there might be something more like black cherry. Yeah, we're somewhere in that kind of big, thick, slightly syrupy version of blackcurrant and black cherry. Not thinking plum so much. Quite often these dark ones I end up going with, you know, plum sauce, the sauce for Peking duck. This isn't doing that for me. It's more, yeah, I think sort of black cherry, blackcurrant, maybe even a bit of blackberry. Yeah, possibly a bit of blackberry. Dark fruit, but all quite sort of rich and syrupy. Give that a sip. Interesting. Not actually quite what I had expected on the palate. There is a really decent streak of acidity there, and that is helping to cut through that sort of rich, dense fruit. And it's actually providing some very nice balance there, in fact. Very fruity, really sort of luscious, more blackcurrant, black cherry, maybe the plums are creeping in there, I don't know, blackberries, all the dark fruits. And there might actually also be some red fruit characters. It's always hard to think of the red fruit when the wine's so dark. But really surprisingly fresh and fruity, and definitely not overly jammy, definitely not syrupy on the palate, which is really good. Coming back to the nose now, some sort of woody notes, slightly reminiscent of sawdust, something like that. You know, the smell of the inside of a woodworking shop. Quite a nice, soft, woody sort of nose there. I think more blackcurrant I'm getting now on the palate, particularly with that acidity. I think blackcurrant, we're probably used to it in a form where a lot of sugar is added, but of course if you eat the blackcurrants straight off the bush, they are pretty tart actually. They're pretty acidic, and it's definitely getting there's a sort of twang there of blackcurrant straight from the bush without, you know, without being liqueurified, syrupified, ribinerified. Underneath that, there is a sort of richness to this as well. Doesn't have that sort of obvious trademark Gevrey Chambertin concentration so much. It's pretty fruity, and all that dark fruit, as discussed. It's a bit more sort of juice rather than that kind of dense, concentrated Gevrey Chambertin style. I don't recall now what the BBR icon was for this. I'm fairly sure they will have designated this for laying down, i.e. they don't think it should be opened yet, and I always just ignore those rules because I don't have the time to wait 5 years for wine to mature. So I suppose, and particularly Perriere Cru wines, I get the sense that often they're intended to be aged somewhat more. So perhaps this is in quite a youthful state. It's certainly not kind of green and unpleasant and vegetal and all those other kind of notes you get from as yet unready wine. It's really juicy and fruity and actually very pleasant. But I imagine for a Perriere Cru wine, they're expecting that to be the sort of state that it's in its infancy, and then it's probably intended to go on for other 5-10 years, whatever, and suddenly become more kind of refined and nuanced and elegant and all that stuff. So it is actually quite nice and quite enjoyable now. There's certainly lots of fruit character there. There is a decent amount of acidity, which will help with the aging, but I imagine this is almost certainly going to be a lot more interesting 5 years from now. Bit of a floral note there, just picked up as well. I'm finding this actually quite enjoyable to drink right now. I'm sure everyone will remind me in the comments I should have waited 5 years, but too late, I've opened it. It's gone, I probably won't buy another. But cheers.